Today, folks, I want to give you a brief introduction to Alzamend Neuro Inc., trading on the NASDAQ under ALZN for around a $35 million market cap, $5 per share price, a company that is focused on treating neurodegenerative diseases and disorders that have been plaguing society for years, including some of my own personal family, which is why I thought it was prevalent to highlight this company as they reached out to me. This is part of sponsored content, but the disclaimer and the sponsor details are in the description below. But I promise you, this is worth diving into, as Alzamend Neuro is a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company focused on developing novel products for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Our mission is to rapidly develop and market safe and effective treatments to bring aid to the 43 million Americans suffering from these debilitating diseases. Our current pipeline consists of 2 novel therapeutic drug candidates, being AL001, which we're going to dive a lot more deeper into and even hear from the CEO a little more about it, but it is a patented ionic co-crystal technology delivering lithium via a therapeutic combination of lithium, proline, and salicylate. And again, we're going to dive deeper into it because you have to understand lithium is already the primary drug to use for treating some of these disorders, but they also have ALZN002, which is a patented method using a mutant peptide sensitized cell as a cell-based therapeutic vaccine that seeks to restore the ability of patients' immunological system to combat Alzheimer's. Both of our product candidates are licensed from the University of South Florida Research Foundation and pursuant to royalty-bearing exclusive worldwide licenses. So firstly, you got to understand the potential replacement to market lithium therapies that currently exist on the market. So the AL001 we discussed, they're in phase 1 and 2A studies that have confirmed AL001 as a potential replacement to market lithium therapies, providing lithium at a lithium carbonate equivalent dose of 150 milligrams is bioequivalent to a marketed 300 milligram lithium carbonate capsule. Again, very prevalent to understand the difference in dosing here and why this one is removing some of the higher doses that can get rid of some of the side effects, which again, we'll dive a little more deeper into, is they've identified a maximum tolerated dose providing lithium at a lithium carbonate equivalent dose of 240 milligrams, designed to be unlikely to require therapeutic drug monitoring. Really prevalent. Now, the safety aspects of AL001 development may qualify for a 505(b)(2) pathway for FDA approval. And these market opportunities are massive because, again, they're affecting 43.5 million US patient populations and 664 million global patient populations. But take a listen to the CEO because he does highlight exactly what we're discussing here.
In our phase 1, we did a bioequivalence study, basically comparing our drug to the current marketed lithium. And it showed that at 50% the dosage, we achieve bioequivalence, which means that you get more lithium potentially within the brain, and it spares the body of the toxicity. So basically, it's imagine if you're taking an aspirin, if you will, and you're basically taking it for a headache, right? But you're taking half the dosage, which spares you any kind of side effects that you may have, you know, vomiting, nausea, etc., anything that's associated with it. Imagine taking 50% the dosage. You don't have the same toxicity that's really associated with the current product. So we achieve bioequivalent 50% the dosage of the current lithium. So right there, it's potential replacement to the current lithium on the market. So right there, the patient population, you don't really have to go looking for patients. You already have your patient population. You're just replacing a therapeutic. But because you were able to achieve a 50% bioequivalence, you're now able to expand that into many different indications, including Alzheimer's, major depressive disorder, and PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. And I can't express to you how major this drug indication can be. And just to give you kind of the recent news on it, Alzamend Neuro announces the initiation date of phase 2 clinical trials of AL001 for treatment of Alzheimer's disease to take place at the Massachusetts General Hospital, which they announced a couple years ago a partnership with to kind of, you know, put these into trials, which I think is great. And you also have more updated news on that they partnered with Qmenta to advance AI AI-powered imaging for its phase 2 clinical trial of that AL001 study to take place again at that Massachusetts General Hospital. You can read a little bit more in depthly to the news. I just wanted to highlight that they are moving forward. And if we take a look at the pipeline beyond Alzheimer's, they are utilizing this drug in bipolar disorder, which is expected in patients in Q3 of 2025, a major depressive basically in Q4 of 2025, and post-traumatic stress in patients in Q4 of 2025 as well. Now, if we look beyond that into ALZN 002 for Alzheimer's disease, they initiated the phase 1/2A clinical trial in March 2023, paused in February 2024, and are expected to resume in 2025. All of this is utterly fascinating to say the least, and I like looking at companies like this purely because I'll focus on Alzheimer's because it's what took my grandmother's life, and there's a bit of a quote in here basically saying 7 million Americans may have Alzheimer's disease and considered by many the most feared disease. Now, between 2000 and 2019, deaths from heart disease have decreased 7.3%, while deaths from Alzheimer's disease have increased 145%. Alzheimer's disease has no cure, and only few treatments for symptoms are available today while research continues. So the key statistics here is it's the 7th leading cause of death in the United States, and 13 million Americans are projected to be living with Alzheimer's disease by 2050. This is a horrifying reality that many people will face in their lifetimes. Now, obviously, this is just Alzheimer's, but you could talk about bipolar, major depressive, post-traumatic, but I don't want to make this kind of a mood-killing video. Obviously, I think it's so important we have companies like this that are willing to work on problems like this, and these are problems that affect 664 million people globally. So the market potential here of total addressable is insane, and it's why companies like this can trade at more favorable values if you believe in their current pipeline. Now, these companies come with a different level of risk. If we take a look at the balance sheet, this is a company that's sitting on about 4.1 million in assets, currently only 700,000, virtually no liabilities. So these companies tend to have a little bit more robust balance sheets, but that's because they're utilizing the assets to fund these trials. And if we just take a look at kind of the expenditures, basically for the 3-month end of 2025 here in January, they spent about $1 million. So it's likely this company is going to be burning through this cash to advance these trials and prove out some of the data, which can drive some more value for us as shareholders, because the company trading for 35 million seems, pretty undervalued if they are actually going to help address the entire lithium market and change the current lithium drug that exists. I mean, that's going to be absolutely, huge. This company could be worth 5-10x more than it is today, but it's likely they're going to have to continue to raise capital at some time in the near term to continue to advance these trials. So they're companies that you have to believe in. You have to look and understand some of the drug trials, which I highly recommend doing more research on, as I leave the links in the description below. This does not constitute financial advice. These are opinions of my own, and I do appreciate Alzamend Neuro for sponsoring this video. As I pass the question off to you, I'd love to know what you think in that comment section below, and consider subscribing for future updates.